It's about that time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of City Views. I'm Jacque Williams, your host, and the show is being brought to you by our sponsor, Toth Insurance Agency, located at 1151 East Main Street. For all your insurance needs, we want to encourage you to check them out. Better protection, better value. Toth Insurance Agency. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we're so excited about today's interview. We have one of the most, this is my personal opinion, okay, and I'm allowed to have personal opinion, okay, but if you want to talk about people that really are committed to what they do and love what they do, then Sue Lubomski is that person. She is now the superintendent of the Torrington School District, and we're so glad to have her on the show today. Sue, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jacque. How are you doing?
Well, you know, it's one of those things, everyone is being challenged in these times, and we all have to try to make the most of it. And when it comes to challenging times and challenging situations, I think that right now you're in the midst, right, as we speak. So I think this interview is very, very important because I know one of your goals is to try to get people on the same page in the community so they have more trust and understanding of the processes that sometimes get very convoluted in funding a school district. I think if people understood a little bit more of what your job actually entails, they would have a greater appreciation for some of the tough decisions that you have to make. And you know, as we speak right now, we're in the process of going to the referendum for the new high school that we're going to be voting on November 3rd. You had a very informative Zoom meeting last night with the school board and the engineers involved in the project and the residents who wanted to join in the Zoom. And I want to commend you for that, because I think the more transparency and openness that we have in these negotiations, the better end result, I believe, we come at. So if you want to take a little time to speak to our audience a little bit about where we stand on the negotiations going forth, and why you're advocating so strongly for the building of a new high school.
Right. So I know some people may be coming new to this. However, it's a 2-year process with our community. We got together with stakeholders, community leaders, the board. You were part of the visioning process just a year ago. But even a year before that, NEASC gave us recommendations in terms of looking at our high school. They are the accreditation board, and we scored very low in terms of the actual facility and what that facility is able to offer our students. So that made us start to look at what really needed to happen with the high school in terms of the facility, really supporting the kind of instruction and career focus that we want our students to have. We want our students to be prepared for the world, for their passions and what they want to pursue, and we would like the building to offer them that opportunity to do that. So as you say, we are going forward to referendum. Hopefully taxpayers will get out there, voters will get out there and vote yes, because yes will cost you less, in terms of going and supporting our new construction at the high school, which it really is grades 7 through 12. And I'll explain why that is in just a moment, versus doing repairs on the high school. So the high school is almost 60 years old. And I know for, those of us getting up there, 60 is the new 40. However, not when you're dealing with buildings. Unfortunately, the windows being 60 years old are very thin. They're not heat efficient. The plumbing and the electricity and all of those other things are really starting to fail. And that's not a good thing. So the inner guts of the building need to be fixed. But also in terms of what we want to be able to offer our students are in line with our career pathways. So the career pathways are medical and our manufacturing and all those good things where students can really get jobs right out of high school, or they can go to college and then they can come back and get their jobs here in Torrington, because we want our students to continue to be Torrington residents as adults and when they have their families, and be productive citizens here, because that is what will help the town thrive.
Well, I think you have to be forward-leaning in your planning, which you obviously are, in terms of one of the things that has changed in our economy over the decades is the fact that it's very difficult now to come out of high school and get that job where you can support your family. So understanding that dynamic in the economy and how important that is, and making sure that those vocational skills are still an effective part of the curriculum, I think is forward-leaning thinking. In terms of the high school and how that's developed and how that will enhance that overall educational experience, talk to our audience a little bit about some of the components going into that will make sure that the Torrington students are getting their best skills developed.
Right. So the board decided that they would have students in 7th through 12th grade be on the same site. The middle school, or the 7th and 8th grade, would be totally separate from the 9th through 12 in this new structure. But the benefit of having 7 and 8 on the same building, in the same building as 9 through 12, is that the 8th graders will be able to take accelerated courses. They will be able to take those advanced science, advanced language, advanced English, advanced math classes that will really get them ready for college. Or they can take classes where they can do those hands-on experiences that will help them get ready for a career, so they get jobs out in our community right after high school. So they can start that in their middle school years. And they'll have those opportunities that we just don't have right now. Certainly the 7th and 8th graders would stay in that side of their building. The teachers would come to them for the accelerated courses, but it's so much easier than shipping the kids up, busing them up to the high school, or sending a teacher down. And just that accessibility, we can really build a master schedule that is 7 through 12 rather than at 2 separate buildings with 2 separate staff. That really doesn't make much sense.
I think that's a great idea. And plus, too, I think there's an aspect of social conditioning that takes place in that situation, because you can actually have more individual and specialized curriculum for the 7th and 8th graders to make sure that they make that transition to 9 through 12 education. So I think that's a great idea on your part. Now, what in terms of how this is going to be funded, why is the state so invested in the new high school?
So we have gone to the state twice now, because we've had to keep them abreast of our plans and how we want to move forward. And they love our plan. They are very, very supportive. They actually said in our last meeting that they were willing to give us top priority, which was nice to be in that group. Other districts will be as well, but it's nice to be in that elite group. And at this point, the reimbursement rate for doing a totally new building is 62%, which is a significant amount. And having the central office in there, you also get that 62%. It used to be that you only got half of the reimbursement rate, but now central offices within the structure of a building get that 62. Whereas if you're looking at a repair rate, you only get 33% of a reimbursement rate, which is significantly less.
Plus, on top of that, the fact that our technology is increasing and improving. So the climate control aspects of the construction of the school going forward. And let's be honest now, Torrington is kind of becoming known as an arts and culture community.
Yes.
So you have to have the cosmetics of the high school built in as well. That's very important aesthetically, not only to the students, but to the community as well. And
right.
I think at a time when Torrington and the Northwest Corner are lobbying really hard for more attention in this part of the state, having this particular project with the high school is very timely.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring that up, Jacque, because really we do want the high school to be our hub of the whole community. What we'd really like to do is be able to have a place where we can serve food and coffee and just have people gather in that front area of the school. Certainly the people who are coming to visit that one area would be blocked from coming into any other area. We would keep our students safe. But after hours, we would also have a place for our students to really perform, and the music, the art, the drama, have a place for them really to showcase all of their skills performing, as well as having an art gallery and having folks in the community enjoy that, having an evening where maybe you can get a little bit, get a bite to eat and then go see a performance in terms of just this setup, and with the food being made by our students as well.
Well, I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for community engagement, Susan, because let's be honest, it's a shame that our schools are locked. And because of, the unfortunate situations that we've had with, multiple school shootings. What better way is there to break through and get that culture change when you have that openness, campus-like atmosphere with real people on the grounds involved and incorporated into the everyday activities of the student body?
And just shifting back even to our manufacturing alignment with our community businesses. I just want to go back to that for just 1 second. We have businesses who are so invested and so excited about having our students participate. We have had our students go to their local manufacturing plants, but we also had one person get her teaching certification so she could teach soldering to our students and then do a co-teaching. So now we have a teacher who now knows how to do that with our students, and then they can get a job doing this small circuitry soldering once they leave school. So they can have a job automatically, and it also serves our community. So we are making those community connections during the day, and then being able to do, as you say, those performances at night. The other piece that's wonderful about this new setup in terms of the architectural design, at least in this conceptual view, they have outdoor amphitheaters and outdoor areas where people can gather, very simplistically set up. But in the time of COVID, we're all outside a lot more, which is a good thing. But also to be able to have our students be able to perform in that way, I think is extraordinary.
Absolutely, it is. Now, Sue, can you talk a little bit about your plan for tying in these vocational opportunities from Torrington High School with Oliver Wolcott?
So what we had wanted to do originally was just do a tale of two schools, which would have been Oliver Wolcott and the high school coming together. And everybody was on board, and we brought it to the state, and they said, okay, you can't do that. Because we wanted to do a new building, a new high school, and a new technical school. But they said that's two separate sources of funding, so we couldn't. However, what's been really nice is the principal over at the tech school and the superintendent of all of the tech schools met with us and is very interested in having us share some classes and share some of the spaces so that we can really benefit the students in the town, which I think is very positive, particularly when we get some new labs and maybe we can use some of their tech labs as well. Because if we are able to add medical labs and some of our STEM manufacturing, particularly for the smaller manufacturing that needs to be done in our community, this would be beneficial to both schools.
Right. Now, I think in light of everything that's going on, Sue, in our society today, I still feel that this is a unique opportunity for our city in terms of the educational process, drawing those bridges from the classroom to the community. A gentleman who we've talked with a few times here on City Views, a gentleman named Harvey Hubble, who is from the Waterbury area, has some unique programs that he's set up to help the community back and support these curriculums in their school districts because it provides for a more holistic educational process and hopefully a more developed student in the long run. Can you talk about some of your philosophies in terms of education and how we can ensure that the student is getting a holistic education?
Right, so there's a couple of factors to that. So when you had mentioned a little bit earlier, the whole technology piece, and technology is booming, right? And we're looking at it now in a whole different way than we ever did. So we want to make sure that our students really have the technology skills. Our teachers are learning a lot of technology. So we're on a learning curve, myself included. So I hadn't Zoomed before this year. Or Google Meeted. But I think that it's really important that we need to remember that even if we are doing some of this distance learning in this year, or if we are Zooming or having conversations like this, the best things to be able to do and the most important things for our students is to be able to do what most of us do in our jobs each and every day, is that we sit down and we collaborate and we communicate and we problem solve and we're sharing documents and we're sitting there together. So even if we get a flipped classroom or a blended classroom and students are still doing some distance stuff after COVID, right? They're doing that at home. We're still going to need that time to communicate and collaborate and figure things out because that's the reality of our world. Right? And so we want our students to be able to have areas where they really can, that are conducive to that. Right now we have desks with, static 4 legs and they don't move and the teachers are having the kids move them so that they can sit in groups and so that they can meet and talk. And I'm saying this is outside of the COVID time, obviously, and it's the furniture isn't even conducive to doing what we do as adults on our job, let alone the labs that we're trying to set up where, if somebody wants to go into biomedical, why shouldn't they be able to have, the body dummy? I know I'm not saying the right medical term, but where they really can work in a lab situation where they can figure out what happens if you really are trying to service the needs, whether you're a CNA or an LPN or a nurse or a doctor or a surgeon. They should start to have some of those exposures. And it's not just about the medical, it's about, like I said before, the manufacturing, but it's the overall, like you're saying, that holistic shock, where they're having an opportunity to really explore and to really learn and to have access, even in their classroom, to whatever else is out there in the technology world. Students aren't carrying, textbooks that are outdated the second that they're printed. They need to be able to access the world, and then we need to be able to process all that is out there. in a productive way, because our students also need to learn how to filter through, right, news and information and what they're receiving in an appropriate way. So a new school would definitely afford us that technology access, because that all has to do with bandwidth and wiring and all of those things, let alone the wiring that we need for air conditioning. We don't even have air conditioning in that building. So I have warned people during this time of COVID, I might have to call a heat day, and then our students will have to be on distance learning, which is very sad. When third floor during the summertime, it is absolutely insane. It's so hot that students can't possibly be available for learning, let alone the poor teachers who are up there and the rest of the staff trying to help the students learn.
Now, I think my personal feeling is I hope that the referendum passes.
Me too.
But as we wrap up this interview, Sue, I think it's very important that we touch upon the topic of having a new high school is great. These new curriculums, innovative programs, even maybe award-winning programs that you guys might be able to implement. But while we're doing that, how can we make sure that our students are feeling a sense of inclusivity? How do we bring them into a social situation and a cultural situation where some of these walls can be eliminated and a holistic, universal process can take place for the whole of the student body?
And Jacque, that's so important to us to make sure that all students feel included, all students feel like they are respected. We live in a very turbulent time, and we want our student voices to be heard. When I think of Robin Lidversis, I think of someone who has been so active in terms of ensuring that her students have a voice, that all of her students have a voice, and working with community leaders so that we really have students and staff working together. I think it is a scary time right now. I think a lot of things have been brought to light, and we need to really pull those pieces apart and have those courageous conversations. And I know Robin is dedicated to doing that. I know that I'm hoping that you will be a part of those conversations as well. I think we have some really great community leaders. Culture is beautiful. Effie and Gaza are wonderful and really have spearheaded this for our community. I think that will make a huge difference. We have really looked at our curriculum offerings. I know Sue Ferguson, the assistant superintendent, is really working on that with the high school, the department heads and the teachers there, so that what we're offering is relevant and timely and helps our students have a broader perspective and a more global perspective. Because it's not just about what's happening here in Torrington. It's about how do you coexist for the rest of your life in a respectful, kind, peaceful way.
Absolutely. That's very important. And the last topic I want to touch on with you, Sue, before we go, what are the prospects for athletics in the upcoming season? What are we looking at here?
Okay, so at this point, it's been a little bit of a rocky road. The CIAC has recommended that conditioning and practicing can happen in all sports until September 20th. So we're going to continue that. Right now, our volleyball players are practicing outside. We're hoping that we can shift them to inside at some point. And so we are following all CIAC guidelines. We are waiting for a little bit more information from DPH because they're the ones who put the brakes on in terms of football and volleyball. And we do have a planned schedule if we are able to go forward with scrimmages on the 21st, and then really looking at games and contests starting the beginning of October. Now, but stay tuned because that may change. we'll just have to see how it goes.
Well, I'm hoping that we might be able to reschedule another interview with you in a few weeks, just so you can update us on some of the plans that are being made and get any necessary information out to the community that you feel is important.
It's about that time.
Okay, that sounds great. It's a date.
Ladies and gentlemen, Susan Lubomski, Superintendent of the Torrington City Schools. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jacque. Always good to see you.
And tell the crew I said hey.
I will, absolutely. You take care.